578-1007 or 800-348-1007.
Who needs broadcasting awards?
I like the sound of my own voice award.
When you've won World's Sexiest and 5 years in a row.
And the winner is
Alan Cox.
On 100.7 WMMS.
Yeah, I had an attitude.
Boy, you want to talk about a star-studded day here on the Old AC Show. So we have our friend Gab Cruz in for a bit. And now Kelsey Cook is back.
Hi.
It's so nice to see you.
Oh, it's so nice to see you, too. Thanks for
It's been
having
a
me back.
long time since you've been here, and you have, as the kids say, blown up.
Oh, wow.
In that time, right? We were talking earlier, not to tell tales out of school. We were trying to figure out who your ex-husband was because we had him, and I would thought it was Kellen Erskine, and that's not right. But we had him on. What was his name?
Kane.
Kane
Holloway.
doesn't. But we had him on. But we had him on, I think, because it was like.
I don't think we did.
Really?
I don't even know.
I thought we did because at the time I was like, this was a long time ago. But I mean, whatever. Anyway, Kellen Erskine's a really nice guy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Kellen's great.
But I think
Kellen
he's
looks
probably
like
married.
everybody. Yeah.
Does he?
Kellen, he gets told he looks like Jesse Pinkman. Kellen does.
Oh, okay.
So maybe he's just that guy for everybody.
Which is a character, not a guy. So it'd be weird if somebody would come up to you, you look like Anne of Green Gables or whatever. You're like, what? So how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Kelsey is doing the weekend at Hilarities.
Mm-hmm.
And I have recently, along with a lot of other people, enjoyed immensely the videos of your dad and the yo-yos. I know you knew it was coming.
I figured.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, thank you.
But your dad already, as I understand it, like a highly accomplished guy, right? Your dad's a musician?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's such a strange man. He just, any hobby he ever picked up, he just went.
He goes deep.
All the way with it. Yeah. So he's
Is he a savant or he's just laser focused on it?
Just laser
It's called
focused.
autism.
I think there's
He's high functioning.
There's a spectrum involved.
Yeah.
No, he's really good at a lot of things. So he's, like world champion foosball player along with my mom. That's how they met. And then
you hustle guys playing foosball too, right? Yeah.
And then he's like an international yo-yo man and slam poetry champion and all these things. And so now with the yo-yo videos, people are asking me if I know yo-yo tricks.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, well, I already had foosball and I did want to lose my virginity at some point. So it was like, I felt like I needed to narrow it down a little bit.
But your dad's like one of those like men of myth where that movie Big Fish where the guy tells all these tall tales. But your dad's like the legit guy. It's like he's a spy or something in real. He's like, well, I can do this and I can do this.
He can do everything. Anything that you don't need to be good at, he's great at.
But they're great parlor tricks.
Yeah, it's like the Dos Equis guy.
He's a human Swiss Army knife, your dad.
Yeah.
He can just whip out whatever he wants.
Yes.
And the foosball, though, has come in handy. I mean, it's...
Yeah. I mean, I don't do it as much anymore, but that was a big thing for...
I showed you the one a few years ago that they used to have over at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. We call it Romo Fijo. That was like a really long one.
Yeah.
And I was all excited for you to maybe get to try it out, but it's not over there anymore.
Oh, darn. Yeah. It was really fun on tour for a while. That's what I had called it. The Hustler Tour was the tour before this one. And I would go to find bars in the area that I was performing in, and I would just pretend like I'd never played before. There would always be drunk guys around, and I'd always just be like, what is this? Is this chess? Oh, my God. I've never seen this. And I would play so bad the first game, and then I'd be like, let's just play for money now. Let's see what happens. And
Isn't it sad how easy we are?
Yeah.
We're just so easy.
Yeah.
Oh, we're
What's
so
the most you've ever
malleable,
hustled somebody for?
Oh, there was a night in Florida, which shouldn't shock anybody,
Yeah.
That I think I left with
Now I
maybe
own Mar-a-Lago.
It's pretty crazy. I think I left with maybe $350. What's great is if somebody doesn't have cash and they are willing to Venmo you, because that's kind of limitless. And then they're just in their bank account.
Yeah.
And if they're drunk, then they're like, oh, one more game. And then that's when you can
really
rack
stack
up
it
It's
up.
just ones and zeros at that point.
Sure.
I will never forget the time where I accidentally hustled somebody at pool. This would have been
It's called iHeartRadio.
No, I just I had a couple of drinks in me, so the edge was off.
Okay.
And I just happened to have the most amazing game of pool I had ever had in my life.
Whoa.
And just cold walked up and told the guy, $200 on this game, whatever. Like, you walk in pretending like you know what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So I go up and I'm playing this guy and I'm like Paul Newman in the color. I mean, I could do no wrong. And as it's happening, I'm like, how is this happening? I just happened to hit every shot and took the guy's money and that was it. But it's like the greatest.
Wow.
And so a guy like your dad, though, would have experiences like that on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe not billiards, but all the other stuff. How do you become an internationally known? I could see state level, regionals, maybe.
Sure.
Are there tiers? But to become an international, when your yo-yo is taking you on trips at that point.
Yeah, the Austin Powers of yo-yo. The international man of mystery.
The internet,
It just apparently had kind of come back into being popular at a certain point. And
I think things like TikTok and social media probably help with that because people can find those videos. I have a friend that's also a pretty good yo-yoer, and he goes to yo-yo conventions or meetups, whatever they call them. But and he's awesome.
What do they call them? Yo-yo meetups.
Depression.
He hangs out with
Duncan Palooza,
he hangs out with other losers, but they're great.
Yeah, I think it was more like in the 80s or 90s for him. So it was before social media, but a company...
You could get on the Tonight Show back then if you were good at yo-yos.
A company was hiring for this, and so he became part of a team, and they flew him to all over the country. He was performing in arenas in Germany or something.
Is this all mostly before you were born? Or do you remember these things as a kid?
I do remember some of them as a kid, and that's partly why I had done the video, because I had mentioned that my dad used to be like my elementary school entertainment. He would come do yo-yo shows as a kid. So I just grew up around such weird things, and I didn't know until I was older how weird they were. That this was not everybody's dad.
Well, you being so good at foosball and having some talent, I know your boyfriend's the most competitive person I've ever met in my entire life. Does he just not even play you at foosball, or does he think he could beat you?
He's really surprised me. He actually bought me a foosball table for Christmas when we moved in together. It is the only thing I can beat him in, which is infuriating for me because I'm also extremely competitive and grew up playing sports. I feel like I'm like my dad in that way where I've got good hand-eye coordination. I feel like I can be pretty okay at a lot of things, and Chad just murders me at everything.
You and Chad Daniels are shacking up, I heard.
Oh, yeah.
Good for you.
Oh, man. Oh, that's how you know I live in Minnesota now. Did you hear my oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Oh, cripe. Oh, cripe. We're living in sin.
I'm so bummed. I never thought it would happen, but I've been there for almost a year now, and it really just... You can't.
In there.
Oh, it's like a dream, isn't it? Hey, hold that thought. I got to give away some money. It's $1,000. You can get it off of the Buzzard Bookie. Listen closely and good luck.
This is your chance to bet with the Buzzard Bookie and win $1,000 now. Enter this nationwide keyword at WMMS.com. Bills. That's bills. Enter it now at WMMS.com.
Kelsey Cook is in town to do the weekend at Hilarities, and it's been a minute, so I would not recommend skipping the show to see her. The Hustler is on YouTube and is very, very popular.
Thank you.
So where were you living in L.A. before Chad said, why did you, because, Bill knows him real well, but I mean, he was in Idaho or something, or he was in the sticks in Minnesota.
Yes, he's always been in Minnesota, but he was up in Fergus Falls, and so,
Fergus Falls.
Which is basically North Dakota. It gets closer to that border. And that
almost
was rough.
Canada.
That was rough when I would visit him and I would look at my plane ticket and it would say Fargo. And I was like, what have I done in my life to get here? This
From
is
L.A.
a rock bottom. Well, I was in L.A. and then I moved up to Spokane, where I'm from. At the end of 2020. And so I was there for a couple years. And then when Chad and I decided to move in together, it made more sense for me to go to Minnesota.
I guess we're like the two comedians that have made, like, you're famous, and you did it from Spokane and Fergus Falls. Like, it's amazing.
Was that a pandemic-induced move, like when everybody was kind of reevaluating their lives and you went home to Spokane? Is that what it was?
Totally, yeah. By the end of 2020, I had been in LA for 6 years at that point, and the shows we were doing in 2020 were in the back of people's pickup trucks and parking lots and Zoom shows and just things where it was like, there's no reason for me to be paying this crazy rent in LA.
You had moved from Spokane to LA.
Right.
Okay, so you'd only been there a few years then.
Right. Well, I had gone from Spokane to Seattle to LA.
Okay.
And I was in LA for 6 years. Yeah. But yeah, and then I went back up to Washington and I just ended up staying. It was so nice to be near my friends and family.
Sure.
And then when you're touring all the time, it kind of doesn't matter where you live because you're gone every week anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So just decided to make it happen with Chad, and now
look at you two.
It's been great.
Living the dream.
He's the best. I'm very lucky. Yeah.
And you're kind of like, because he's got older kids, yeah?
Yep. He's got a 24-year-old son and a 19-year-old daughter.
Oh, they're that old.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't realize they were that old. I guess we've been talking to him for a long time, right?
Yeah,
Like they were little kids.
I've known them since the kids were like 10 and 8.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's been a long time.
Yeah, Chad's in his 70s, so that's how that all works out.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm an old dad, and, there's got to be room for people like us in the world. You know? There has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not he had his kids so young, though. That's what's, like, the age spread in this family now with me involved is so interesting.
Oh, yeah, I have a 23-year-old and a 19-year-old and a 7-year-old.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So, like, I'm currently an old dad.
Oh.
But I also have, like, the,
Now, would you recommend that? Would you recommend being an old dad?
I would recommend having kids when you kind of have your head right, which is no big revelation.
Sure.
But I mean, it wasn't like I was 17. My older kids were born when I was like 29.
Okay.
But I was still a jackass, so whatever.
Yeah.
But I think the longer, it's different for guys. I totally get it. I think the longer you can put off having a kid.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you want to have fun with them and do all that stuff. You don't want to be like Pacino and De Niro.
Yeah.
But I think that there's value in being like, yeah, I kind of got some things figured out. If part of what you want to do, which I assume your parents did, if part of what you want to do is at least impart some wisdom to your kids, you got to have some first.
Well, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
What does your mom do? Is your mom a quiet genius too?
My mom actually is in Mensa, which is pretty
Well, that's
wild.
what I'm saying. Like there's something had to attract a guy like your dad to whatever your mom's story is.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they met playing at a professional football tournament.
Oh, they
so
did?
I was just destined to be a clown.
Yeah.
Essentially. But
You have siblings?
I do. I have a younger brother.
Yeah. What does he do?
He is the only normal one in the family.
You mean like he's a square? Like
he
he
works
just
in finance.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guarantee.
Like, I don't want to play yo-yo, and I don't want to play foosball. I just want to look at numbers.
I just
I want to crunch numbers. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Although finance, that's probably just as freaky as anything else these days.
Oh yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. If I do any crowd work with couples, it's always the ones that look the most normal, like elementary school teachers that are doing such crazy things in the bedroom.
I know that everybody's posting their crowd work on social media, so you're not like burning good bits and things like that. I think it's and a lot. There's a lot of great crowd work on social media. A lot of bad crowd work too.
Oh yeah.
What jumps out at me sometimes with yours is it so kind of. I know everybody has to do it off the cuff, but yours is almost so sweet and so genuinely surprised at some of the people, right? It's not like you at least give the notion that you don't have 1,000 arrows in your quiver,
Oh yeah.
in like a good way. It's just it's very entertaining to watch.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of these things, it's just you could never expect in a million years.
Right.
And so you really are just in the moment being like, I have so many questions about what just happened.
Right.
Like, it's, you know what I mean?
Well, it's like people with management teams, they'll be like, we have to find a way for you to go viral. And there's like no way to do that.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like you fall into it or whatever, and you can have, a couple of things that hit huge.
Yeah.
What has it been over the past few years where you were like, well, this is really something's happening or, something's blowing up?
Dead friend story.
Yeah.
I've been sent that no less than 3 million times.
Oh my God.
And it's great though, because I'm like, hey, that's my friend. Keep sending
so
it.
Funny. Yeah. I had a joke on TikTok go viral and it has like 15 million views.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty crazy. And then crowd work just started to get so big, and I just kept happening to like run into crowd work situations on the road, and I put it online and seemed to be going well. And then once my special The Hustler came out, I really clipped that up into a ton of clips, and I just put it on Instagram, put it on Facebook, and some of those went really viral too. So just staying as active as you can. I feel like there's so little you can control in this business, but anything that you can control, like what you put out, what clips you do, I think that's that's a good feeling when you're like, okay, I am building something.
Well, and especially since you have there is a way to exercise more control over it now.
Sure,
too.
yeah.
It's a hell of a lot of work and a big pain in the ass, but at least you can be like, well, I put that there and now, wrote it, performed it, posted it, whatever.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
And I think having the variety that you have where people love your stand-up and your crowd work and all that stuff, but also the endearing stuff, the videos with your dad doing the duets and stuff when it was like quarantine.
Oh, Trumpet Tuesday.
Yeah, Trumpet Tuesday were great.
Thank you.
So like you have all that stuff and it just, it scratches a lot of itches. So it's very engaging content, which is hard to do.
Thank you.
And you
make it look very natural.
You were probably never in a situation where you had to worry about your parents being supportive of you saying, I want to be a stand-up comic. Was it that black and white? Was it like, hey, I think this is something I want to do? Or were you kind of like so many other performers, where you just kind of like, that's where I ended up and I have a talent for it?
Yeah, it was more the latter. I thought I was going to be a high school math teacher.
Yep.
At the high school I went to, like that was how afraid of any risk I was.
Oh, so you didn't even really have like a vision of like the world beyond Spokane?
No.
Okay.
No, I was just like, didn't want to take risks. I loved making my friends and family laugh, but I just never considered it as a career. And got pretty miserable with the math major about halfway through college, switched majors, and then started doing open mics and just fell in love with it when I was 20. And my mom was always very supportive, but my dad, ironically, you would think with all of his weird talents that he would have totally been on board, but it was almost the opposite. Like he knew what it took to be successful in entertainment.
Yeah.
And I don't think he wanted that for me.
Right.
He was like, it's just a lot of question marks where you don't know.
Banging your head against the wall.
Yeah, you don't know how long it's going to take. There's no guarantee. It's not like becoming a nurse where it's like you go to this school and then you apply to this job and you generally get something. It's like, you're like, I want to be a comedian. You're like, well, good luck. I mean, what do you get?
Right.
I mean, how many people do we know that are absolutely hilarious that still are, grinding it out, trying to make a living doing it? And it's like a bummer because they're so funny, but it's just that hard.
You do theaters and clubs?
I'm starting to do some theaters now for next year's tour,
Yeah.
so that's exciting. But yeah, it's just wild. I've felt really lucky that my special, The Hustler, did well on YouTube because I feel like that's really helped get my stand-up out there and bring more people to live shows. So that's been nice.
Kelsey Cook is doing the weekend at Hilarities. It may be, I'll say it may be the last time you'll see her in such an intimate setting before she's doing stadiums and theaters and, whatever. So go to hilarities.com for the details. The Hustler is on YouTube. It's very, very funny. And you go, what's the website? Just kelseycook.com?
Yep, that's
for everything
right,
else. KELSEY. And it's always nice to see you.
It's so nice to see you too. Thanks for talking.
Let me take a break here. If you want to send a text for anything, 35192 to do that, and we'll be back.